Hi, I am Dr. Bree. I'm a physical therapist and I specialize in pelvic health. Today we're going to do a foam roller routine that is great for the lower body and the pelvic area. But first, subscribe to my channel and click the little bell to get notifications so that you never miss a new video. All right, let's go ahead and get right to the workout. So for this, you will need a high density foam roller. And this one is kind of small. I really like how compact it is, but you can absolutely use the longer size if that works better for you. Just make sure that it's nice and firm and that it's long enough to fit your body on it. It can't be too short. So get one of these and let's get started. We'll begin on the floor. All right, so you might need yoga blocks that you can put under your hands for some of these moves, but they're totally optional. So I'm gonna show you how you can use them, but you also don't need yoga blocks. It really depends on your wrists and what feels most comfortable for you. So we're gonna begin with hamstring sweeps, and I want you to sit up on your roller and either tent your fingers like this, little spider fingers, or like I said, you can use the yoga blocks. So what you're going to be doing is simply sweeping your hamstrings along this foam roller. Let me show you how it would look with yoga blocks. So keep going. But with yoga blocks, it can just kind of bring the ground up to you and make it less difficult on your wrists if you have tender wrists. So everyone is so different. Just play around and see what you like best. Now, I'm going to go ahead and remove the yoga blocks, but just know that you can use them throughout this entire workout at any time if you need them. So for these hamstring sweeps, and why we even want to do foam rolling, is that it's really bringing a lot of blood flow to the muscles, the fascia, all of the tissues that often are tight in so many people. We get really tight in these muscles that are in our thigh area that hook into our pelvis. So a strong, healthy pelvic floor requires strong, balanced muscles and flexible muscles that hook into the pelvis. So the hamstrings hook directly into the pelvis, into the butt bones, the sitting bones. So that's why we really want to start with this nice, long, sweeping motion to kind of bring that blood flow to the area, increasing lymph flow, increasing circulation of blood, and really working on flexibility of these tissues. All right, let's go ahead and go more focused into the insertion point of the hamstrings on the sitting bones, otherwise known as the butt bones or the ischial tuberosities if we want to be proper. So the sitting bones are right here. You can feel them when you're on your roller. And in general, we don't want to be sitting directly or rolling directly on bone. So I want to focus right now on little tiny pulses that are right under the sitting bone, okay? The sitting bone's on each side. So right under, little tiny pulses in that area right where the hamstring muscle hooks into the sitting bone. Now you're just rocking back and forth, and again, you can use yoga blocks. And the thing about foam roller workouts is that they don't look pretty. Like they're really awkward. You're sort of like, I often find myself kind of like falling off the foam roller or just feeling kind of like I have to reposition myself. So just know that this is all about finding the spot that feels really yummy in your body, really good in your body. And if you feel kind of awkward and like you're having to like kind of look around for the right spots or you're kind of tippy on your roller, it's all good. Just find the right spot and really massage that area where the hamstrings hook into the sitting bone. So we're right on the upper hamstring right now. Now we're gonna switch and go above the sitting bones, I should say. There's one on each side. So we're gonna go right into the meaty part, the really, big gluteal area where there's lots of glute muscles. We have our deep hip rotators under here. Like there's a lot going on in this area. So little tiny pulses focusing on the area above the sitting bones. So keep going here. And again, your sitting bones, you can feel them, the little sharp points. We don't want to be directly on bone when foam rolling, but we can be above the sitting bones right now. So little tiny pulses here. Let's just do a couple more. And next, we are going to lean onto one side so that we can access the piriformis a little bit more directly. So what I want you to do is cross your right leg over your left, and you're going to lean to the left. So right now you're in that really meaty part of your butt, and underneath these gluteal muscles, we have the deep hip rotators. And one of the hip rotators is called the piriformis, and this muscle tends to be quite tender. It's often quite tight in a lot of people. So just know that if you feel tender here, you're not alone, and your body probably needs this rolling action. Foam rolling is also really good for muscle soreness. So if you've had a hard workout and you want to do some foam rolling after your workout, this can be great. And as far as increasing flexibility, long-term gains in flexibility tend to be maintained with foam rolling when you do foam rolling consistently, like 3 to 5 times a week. So consistent practice of foam rolling can be helpful for muscle soreness, for flexibility, and just general tissue health. All right, a couple more times, just rolling back and forth, sweeping over the deep hip rotators for me, this is my left side. And I want you to just experiment now with bringing that bottom knee, focus on the bottom leg. So for me, it's the left leg, and just kind of bringing it up and down and seeing how that feels. I want you to notice an area, if you feel that there's an area where your muscle's like, ooh, I really feel that. Maybe even also kind of tipping forward and back with your body. You can use your hands in different positions, but tip your body, raise and lower that bottom leg, and just see if you can find a spot that really feels like it needs some love. It's going to be tender. It's going to be tight. If you have zingers and shooting pain, like nerve pain, we don't want that, but a little discomfort and tenderness is good. It shows that we need to work on this spot. But if you find that spot and you notice your muscles kind of tensing up and resisting because it's tender, I want you to intentionally try to melt and relax your muscles, okay? So you can also play around with arm position. Maybe you even want to be down on your elbow to give this a try. Feeling that tender spot and then intentionally melting rather than resisting. Because our body's natural reaction when we feel discomfort is to tense up. And I want you to remind yourself that you're safe, this is controlled, and you can relax. So relax. Melt. And when you feel like you've had a few breaths, let's go ahead and do a few more sweeps, still in that deep piriformis, left kind of hip rotator, gluteal area here. And before we move to the other side, we are going to, actually no, let's go ahead and move straight to the other side. I changed my mind. So come on up, sit up tall, and let's go straight to the other side. So I'm crossing my left leg over my right now and leaning to the right. Again, this is often not pretty. It's kind of awkward. We have to find our perfect position. Maybe you're on your elbow. Maybe you're on your hand. Just find that spot where you feel those deep hip rotators on the right side, the side that you're leaning onto. Sweeping, finding that tender spot. I'm just going to move a little bit so we can see a different angle here. So finding that tender spot, tipping onto the glute, feeling those deep hip rotators. If you feel zingers and shooting sharp pains down your leg, then I want you to back off. Foam rolling should be sometimes a little uncomfortable, a little tender, but there shouldn't be pain or shooting pain down your leg. We don't want to be irritating the nerves that run through these deep hip rotator muscles. Okay? So when you find a spot, maybe you feel like you want a little more, you can try your elbow, you can try different positions, you can try lifting and lowering that bottom leg and seeing if you can just find that perfect spot. And if you notice that there's some resistance, if you notice that your body tenses up naturally because it's tender, I want you to intentionally melt, soften the muscles. And then come on up and sweep again. Now, the next thing we're gonna do after a quick little hamstring sweep one more time, let's do that now, quick little hamstring sweep. So come back onto the hamstrings. We've done a lot of work around the sitting bones. So we're gonna do one more little hamstring sweep. And now we're gonna work on the outer hip area and this super long tendon of the body. So this tensor fascia lata and this long tendon that goes down all the way to the outside of your knee. So I'm gonna bring my top leg in front, and then my bottom leg is just straight and long. Now, you can sweep with your foot kind of dragging on the ground, right down there, or you can lift that bottom foot up. You can be on your hands, or you can be on your elbow. There are so many options, but the key is you want to be feeling where you need it most. And it's going to be different for everyone. Maybe you're going to be more in the meaty part of these outer hip and thigh muscles, or maybe you're going to be down a little lower. You can do full sweeps, or you can stay kind of localized to one area, whatever feels good to you. But I recommend experimenting with both. Now, when you find a spot that feels like, okay, that really needs it, I want you to experiment with gently tipping your body forward and back and finding that perfect spot that you just know intuitively. It's like, I'm drawn to that spot. I know this is where I need some release work. So when you find that spot, notice, are you tensing against the discomfort? If you are, soften and relax those muscles and breathe into the area. Maybe tipping a little bit forward and back to find that perfect spot and just hold it there. After you've held it there for a little while, a couple deep breaths, and by the way, you can always pause this video if you want more time, then you can go back and do some more sweeps. Should feel really, really good. Again, blood flow to the area. Circulation includes blood, lymph. We're circulating all sorts of great things throughout our muscles, our tissues, our fascia, and we're also just circulating energy. We can get stuck, pent up emotions, and energetically we can feel really stuck and stagnant and congested in our tissues. And I think foam rolling is one of the best methods of just getting things flowing in our body. All right, so one more sweep here. And before we move to the other side, we're gonna go to our low back area. So again, we're working on all of these thigh muscles that hook into our pelvis, but our back muscles also hook into our pelvis too. So I want you to not be on the bones of the lumbar spine itself, but to be more on the muscles on the side that hook into your lumbar spine. So you're gonna be tipped over to, for me, I'm tipped to my left. And so I'm getting the muscles that are in the lumbar area and I'm just rolling. And again, do whatever you need to do. It doesn't look pretty. It's gonna feel kind of awkward, but just move your legs and be on your elbow or however it feels best to you to really get into those lower lumbar muscles on the left side of your lumbar low back area. Find the spots that feel really good. In this area, we have our lats, we have our quadratus lumborum, we have our deep back extensors. So there's a lot going on down here. Again, don't be on the spine itself and just roll it out. It should feel really yummy. What I like to do as an option, so this won't be for everyone, but what I like to do is to actually drape over the foam roller and really target that quadratus lumborum muscle. So if you have the flexibility to do this, then you can come down and kind of drape over the foam roller and just see how that feels. I like to almost drop my pelvis to the ground and literally drape over. And in this position, it's really putting pressure, deep pressure on those muscles, which then when you release this pressure, it's like you're going to get this jolt of blood flow to the area and it feels so, so good. So if this feels comfortable for you, it's not comfortable for everyone, but if this feels comfortable for you, take a deep breath. Again, I'm tipped over to my left. I'm not just arched, on my low back. I'm tipped a little bit. And then coming on up carefully, using my body And then I kind of pulse roll right in that area that we just worked. Oh my gosh, it feels so good. Pulse rolling right down to that area, right where the low back muscles hook into and meet the back of the pelvis bones. The pelvic area, there's lots going on down here. We have multiple bones that make up the pelvis. We have the spine. We have all of the pelvic floor muscles that are in the middle of it all. We have all these muscles we're rolling that hook into this area. It's a lot. Okay, let's go ahead and go on to the other side. So carefully come up, and we're going to do the same side hip combo and low back combo on the other side. So beginning with that side hip, top leg goes in front of the bottom, and we are simply rolling in whatever way feels good. You can, again, drag that foot on the floor. You can lift it up. You can be on your elbow. You can do whatever you want to do. Just play with position here and play with where the foam roller needs to be. If it needs to be down lower, you don't ever want to be directly on the knee joint, but you can get down close to the knee. And it's tender, I'll tell you that much, especially if you're a runner or a walker, you might find a lot of tenderness in this area. And then maybe you want to stay up high, closer to your hip. Just find those spots that feel really, really good. And then maybe even tip forward and back to see what you can feel as far as a tender spot that really needs a little extra love. When you find the tender spots, what do? Do we resist? No, we melt. So find the tender spots and just relax into them. A couple more deep breaths. And then we're going to come onto our back. So remember, we're staying, right now I'm on my right side, and now I'm going to be focusing on my right lumbar area, the muscles to the right of my low back. So I'm kind of tipped over toward the muscles, biasing the muscles that are on the right side of my low back. And I'm just sweeping it out, moving my legs to help drive the roll of the roller. And not on the spine itself, just focusing on those low back muscles. Now again, I like the way it feels to drop my hips to the ground and then to still be tipped over to the side, and I drape over the roller. If you don't have the flexibility to do this, don't worry about it. You can also play with putting your hand or your head in your hand, or maybe your head can go on a pillow or a yoga block, and you can see how that feels. I love the way it feels to drape, really pressing into those right lumbar muscles, the quadratus lumborum, the deep back extensors, the lats. And then after a deep breath or two, I carefully make my way up onto my elbow, and then I pulse roll those same muscles that I was just pressing into, especially right down close to where my pelvis is, the backside of my pelvis. It feels so good. If you do this and you love the way this feels, you've got to give me a comment and let me know. All right, keep going. A little bit more. Now, before we move on to our quads, we have to do, because they also hook into this whole general area, everything,'s connected. We're going to do our quads and our adductors. But before we do that, we're going to do a super quick sweep of the mid-back. So this is kind of an anomaly here because we are really on the bones. We're on the shoulder blades. You can feel it on your shoulder blades. You can feel it on the mid-back spinal area. I just love the way this feels. I can't leave it out. It's one of my favorite sweeps on the roller because I always feel these really great crackles. I just love it. Support your head with your hands and take a deep breath, and then let's go ahead and move on. So come through your side, and we're going to now get our quads, the front of our thighs. So they also, are part of the pelvic complex. And again, we want strong, balanced, flexible muscles around our pelvis to support a strong, balanced pelvic floor. So for this, you're going to have the roller right on your thighs. And you can be in different positions. You can be on your elbows. And for the most part, you want to avoid being right over your pubic bone because that can be pretty tender. So maybe you want to be like this. Some people really have the flexibility and strength to really kind of dive bomb. So whatever feels good to you, but just play around with this. If this feels pinchy in your low back, then make sure you don't go up onto your hands beyond your elbows and gently lift your belly button toward your spine to help support your low back. So sweeps in whatever way feels good. And in this, you can also play with rotating at your hips just a little bit. So turning your toes in and out and see if there's a spot that really feels like it needs a little extra release. So a couple more sweeps, and you can always spend longer on any of these areas, but I definitely don't want you to miss out on your inner thighs, okay? So let's do that next. Carefully come off your roller, and I'm gonna lay on this side. This is my right side, and the foam roller is in front of me, and my leg is draped, my left leg is right here, and it's draped over the foam roller. So for this, another somewhat awkward move, you kind of just use the weight of that top leg to roll the roller and to press. So the weight of the leg is pressing down into the roller. It's not that intense, which is good because these muscles, if you have pelvic floor tension, which can lead to pelvic floor pain, oftentimes these inner thigh muscles are also very, very tight and tender as well. So just gently rolling this area can feel really nice. You can also see if it feels different down closer to your knee versus closer to your groin. So play around with that and see what you feel. When you find a spot that you're like, oof, I need some attention there, I want you to try something new. I want you to try lifting your foot up off the floor. Oh, it's a lot, isn't it? Lift that foot up and then lower it. So what this is actually doing is internal and external rotation at your hip. As you lift and lower your foot up off the floor, this is internally and externally rotating your hip joint. Okay? Everything's connected. So lifting and lowering that foot is internally and externally rotating the hip, and it's causing you to feel the pressure on different areas of your adductor muscle group, the inner thighs. So when you find that spot that feels like it really needs it. So for me, it's right about here. I'm like, okay, there's a spot right there. So then I'm going to straighten out my leg and just sink into the pressure. So I'm going to know that my muscles are going to want to resist and tense up and tighten up, but I'm going to intentionally ask them to relax and melt and soften. And I'm going to take some deep breaths right into that area. And you can always hold this for longer, hold the relaxed work for longer, but I'm just going to move into some sweeps for time's sake. So I always like to follow up those deep releases with the deep breathing and kind of the holding it steady in one spot. I like to follow it up with some sweeps. So just sweeping. And the way I'm doing that again is just sort of rocking my pelvis side to side to help make that sweeping motion happen. All right, let's go ahead and go to the other side now. So, same thing, other side, and then we are done. So, find your position, and you are just rocking and rolling. Finding the sweeps, and playing with how it feels closer to your groin area versus closer to your knee. I like to try to make the sweeps as full and complete as I can, so play around with how that feels for you. And then we're going to bring in the rotation. So for me, it's usually right about here that on the inner thigh that I'm really feeling it. And so I'm going to try bringing the lower leg and foot up and down. which is really internal and external rotation of the hip. And I'm going to see if there's a spot that really needs a little work. For me, I'm not really feeling it so much on this side. So it shows me my left side, my other leg, might need a little more work than my right. But I'm going to find my spot that feels like it needs a little help. And then I'm going to straighten my leg and just apply that pressure. Steady pressure or little tiny pulses, all is good. You can play with different ways of doing this. And breathe. Notice if you are resisting and tensing up your muscles, and soften them down, relax. And after we hold that relaxed work, we follow up with some big sweeps. So following up with sweeps, and you are done. So carefully come up to a seated position when you feel complete. Take your time with this. And I always like to end by just kind of rubbing out my muscles with my hands as well. So if you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up and share it with a friend who might need it. And know that if you want more ways to work with me, if you happen to have pelvic tension or pain, I have a program for you. I also have a program called Lift, which is great for prolapse relief. All the links and resources are in the video description. So I hope you enjoyed this. 3 to 5 times per week to maintain long-term flexibility is wonderful. And I'll also put a link to an example of a foam roller in case you're wanting to purchase one or maybe upgrade the one that you have, okay? So check the video description for that, and until next time, remember, eat clean, move every day, and you will shine brighter. I'll see you next time.